Grey's Anatomy's favorite surgeons didn't simply go. They had to flee for their life. Years were spent in therapy simply to get ready to stop. While battling addiction that began with back pain, another person entered into a recovery facility. When a young doctor's body failed due to stress, she was diagnosed with mental disorder. Every dramatic leave was the result of a desperate person who believed that the cost of success was too great. Everything began in 2004. When Shonda Rhimes decided to make something new. She didn't want to see another standard hospital performance. She wanted the female characters to feel authentic. She also had no desire to replicate what was already in existence. For this reason, although being from Chicago, she chose Seattle as the site for her show. She desired a new atmosphere, and ER was already headquartered in Chicago. But the location wasn't the only aspect of the larger concept. It was about its occupants. Real women were what Rhimes desired. Nor flawless, nor refined, simply truthful. She had an obsession with surgical shows, finding it fascinating that doctors could discuss breakups while cutting someone open. As a result, she didn't consider features, gender, or race when creating her characters. All she wanted was the top performer for each role. A unique and varied cast began to form as a result. Despite being dubbed Grey's Anatomy, the show was almost not. ABC considered altering the name to Complications at one point. It didn't occur. What actually occurred, however, altered everything. At first, ABC had scheduled it for Monday evenings at 10 p.m. January of 2005. They changed it to March at the last minute, though. And immediately after Desperate Housewives, they scheduled it for Sunday rather than Monday. That spot was the largest TV program at the time. Was priceless. Fans of Desperate Housewives simply continued to watch. The test run of Grey's Anatomy was only intended to last 4 weeks. But by the time episode 2 came out, 17.71 million people watched, up from 16.25 million. Not only was the audience intrigued, they had become addicted. Instead of sticking to the 4-week schedule, ABC chose to continue. They had already made up their minds by May. Grey's Anatomy would not be leaving. It was just another medical drama until season 2 made it into a huge thing. They were crazy numbers. Every week, more than 21 million viewers tuned in. Everything changed when the Super Bowl episode rolled around. A total of 38 million people watched. One of the most significant TV events of the decade was this one. ABC has discovered its crown treasure at last. Fans were captivated by Addison, Derek, and Meredith. Not all of the drama took place in the hospital. There was it everywhere. And once folks were drawn in, they stayed. It was soon followed by the awards. Grey's won everything from the NLAC Image Awards to the Golden Globes to the Emmys. Jesse Williams, Chandra Wilson, Isaiah Washington, Sandra Oh, and Katherine Heigl all brought home awards. The writers and casting directors were even acknowledged. The scripts written by Shonda Rhimes were not only strong but also effective. Reviewers praised the show. The show was adored by viewers. It was a movement, not just a strike. After that, an odd event occurred. Words from the show began to appear in everyday speech. The culture adopted McDreamy and McSteamy. Following Christina's designation of Meredith as her own, everyone had someone. Speaking about coding, scrubbing in, or on-call rooms didn't require you to be a doctor. The show's language permeated daily life. Real-life drama began to be compared to a Grey's Anatomy scenario. TV wasn't the only thing anymore. People's speech was the issue. Thursday nights followed. ABC took a chance by scheduling Grey's for Thursdays at 9 p.m. It used to be NBC's time slot. Grey's, however, did not only make it. It belonged to it. For 18 years in a row, Thursday at 9 entailed one thing. Anatomy of Grey. It was seen by parents. Their children then did. It was a weekly right. Nobody else was that reliable for so long. In 2024, when the time slot was ultimately altered, it truly made news. That was the depth of its run. However, Grey's did not only exist on television. It gained a second home on the internet, on Netflix and Hulu. In 2005, those who were too young to see it were suddenly binge-watching 20 seasons in a month. It rose to the top of the year's streaming drama list in 2024. Watched for around 48 billion minutes. Families took a seat together. The mothers who viewed it in the past are now re-watching it with their daughters. The scene was repeated, but on a different screen. One of the major stars on Grey's Anatomy was Isaiah Washington. However, what transpired behind the scenes in 2006 would alter the course of events. For the show, for him, and for the actors. One October evening was the beginning. The filming was going behind schedule. When Patrick Dempsey arrived late to set, Isaiah was not pleased. Dempsey may have done it intentionally to retaliate against Isaiah for his tardiness earlier. Whatever the cause, Isaiah snapped. He shouted, "You son of a bitch," and pushed Patrick up into a wall. The crew members stopped. According to Marty Carrillo, one of them, Isaiah's eyes widened immediately after, as if he realized he had gone too far. The filming ceased instantly. It wasn't the worst part of being told to go home. Isaiah made a statement that would ruin his career during the dispute. Even though T.R. Knight wasn't involved in the altercation, he directed a homophobic insult at him loud enough for others to hear. T.R. was still not publicly available. Not even his family was aware of it. The word got out quickly, and it wasn't limited to T.R. It had him face a very personal issue in the most visible manner imaginable. Crew members were in disbelief. T.R. subsequently claimed that it was the first time he had ever been called that word directly. He told Ellen how that made him feel uneasy. Something changed in him. He was unable to remain silent any longer. Thus, he came out during an interview with People magazine. Although that wasn't his preferred method, he desired authority over his own narrative. Not that Isaiah made things any easier. The program received a Golden Globe a few months later. In the press room, he exacerbated the situation rather than letting it go away. When reporters inquired about the event, Isaiah chose to publicly use the same slur once again rather than refuting it in private. He claimed that I didn't call TR a faggot. However, by doing it again, he set off another explosion. The leading organization for LGBTQ+ rights, GLAAD, issued a forceful statement. His remarks were deemed unacceptable by ABC, which also released one. There was an instant pushback. Washington said he was sorry. It was too late when he acknowledged that his words were incorrect. His official termination by ABC did not occur until June 2007. Many believe the delay demonstrated the network's slow response to the Golden Globes fiasco, which occurred nearly 6 months later. Dr. Burke, his character, was abruptly written off the show. At the altar, he abandoned Christina Yang. Until 2014, that was the last time. When Isaiah made a surprise appearance on the show for a final episode 7 years later, viewers were taken aback. There was a reason why it wasn't to everyone's liking. Christina, played by Sandra Oh, insisted on it. She refused to leave the show without getting the closure she so much desired. According to Isaiah, she prevailed in the war. GLAAD even backed his return, citing his recent declarations in favor of marriage equality in his PSAs. Shonda Rhimes, the show's creator, revisited the controversy in 2025. The actors who survived that period, she continued, were still affected. They still talk about it, she said. In 2007, Katherine Heigl had the world's attention. She recently received an Emmy for her role as Grey's Anatomy's Dr. Izzy Stevens. However, after only a year, everything disintegrated, starting with a single sentence. Heigl stunned Hollywood in June 2008 when she withdrew her name from consideration for an Emmy. "I don't think I was given good enough material that year to deserve a nomination," she stated. Like a kick to the gut, the words struck. The show's writers felt caught off guard. At first, the show's creator, Shonda Rhimes, said nothing. But something had shifted in the back of your mind. Heigl would be affected for years by the repercussions of that one choice. Later on, she acknowledged that it wasn't the finest call. Although she later described it as more akin to an ambush, she told a reporter that she was merely attempting to be truthful. The harm was done, though. Rhimes awaited the ideal opportunity before responding with a low-key yet ruthless line. Regarding Heigl, she encouraged Oprah to believe individuals when they exhibit their true selves. The quotation was icy but not loud. And the industry as a whole heard it. The writers felt deceived. It became tense on the set. Whether they stated it out or not, everyone knew it and the crew sensed it. Heigl was nearing the end of her tenure on Grey's Anatomy. Then a pivotal moment occurred. A Korean baby girl was adopted by Heigl in September 2009. She described it as transformative. All of a sudden, her priorities changed. She aspired to be a better mother as well as an actress. She stepped away from the show for 3 months. When she continued skipping work and scripts needed to be redone again, everyone initially understood, but eventually patience wore thin. She requested to work less hours behind the scenes. The talks went poorly. She thus requested that her contract be terminated in 2010. She said it was for her family, but the reality was more complicated. She came 18 months early. The makers had just had enough. By early 2010, things had become even more bizarre. Her character, Izzy, simply disappeared. She appeared one day and then vanished the next. No grand farewell, no spectacular departure, simply gone. Later, one of the writers claimed that they had a plan for Izzy, but Heigl failed to appear for the filming. On Heigl's side, the story was different. She was back in Los Angeles, they said, awaiting the call. She didn't receive one. Both of them stopped communicating after what felt like a breakup, and then one of them simply moved out. Her time on the show came to an end when Rhimes ultimately let her go. Izzy never returned, not even to say goodbye. When Alex Karev quit the show to spend time with her off-screen 10 years later, fans finally felt some sort of closure. However, the tale did not stop there. Rhimes spoke on her more recent shows in a follow-up interview in 2014. When questioned about why things went more smoothly, she didn't mince words. "There aren't any Heigls here," she added. "I don't tolerate rudeness or crap from others." They all knew exactly who she was referring to. In Hollywood, Heigl's name became a warning after that. Producers began to stay away from her. People referred to her as challenging. The offers stopped coming in. Her background extended beyond Grey's Anatomy. The spotlight has left her. Heigl acknowledged that the rumors broke her heart in an interview from 2021. She said that the criticism got out of hand. She became difficult after being honest. All of a sudden, they became ungrateful. She eventually had to deal with it by going to therapy. She claimed to feel like a piece of trash. However, in 2022, an unforeseen event occurred. Speaking up was Ellen Pompeo, the face of Grey's Anatomy. She said that Heigl had always been correct and that she was ahead of her time. Then the narrative abruptly changed once more. Heigl might not have been the bad guy. It's possible that she talked too soon. Perhaps she was right in a field that wasn't prepared to hear it. It was too late by then, though. There was more to Patrick Dempsey's departure from Grey's Anatomy than a simple storyline twist. It was a real-life catastrophe that had been developing for years in the background. Things had completely gone haywire by 2015. Executive producer James D. Apariat claimed that Dempsey had grown to be a major issue on the set. He asserted that Dempsey could halt production at any time and that his very presence in the room caused anxiety. Executives at ABC even had to intervene and meet with him in private. That was how awful it was. There were no sexual accusations, but there was definitely tension. By season 11, Dempsey and Shonda Rhimes, the show's creator, were at odds with one another. They were at each other's throats, Harriet added. Behind closed doors, some staff members believed Dempsey was simply lonely and miserable, particularly as the influence of the ladies on site increased. The pressure increased as they continued to report his actions to Rhimes. Then, in 2015, the unthinkable occurred. Derek Shepherd died in a vehicle accident. In addition to shocking fans, it moment conveyed a message. There was a serious problem behind the scenes. It was more than just work-related turmoil, though. Things became personal. Working with Dempsey caused trauma for certain cast members, according to Harriet. According to him, the stress he produced caused PTSD in some people. Although it seems drastic, Lynette Rice's book How to Save a Life has numerous references to support it. One name that kept coming up was Ellen Pompeo. Off-screen, the relationship between her and Dempsey had soured, despite their role as the show's main pair. According to Janine Renshaw, the former producer, Pompeo became irritated when she was performing twice as many sequences as Dempsey, who was always complaining. The fact that actor Isaiah Washington, with whom Dempsey had a falling out in 2007, accused him of being persistently late and delaying production did not help. The anxiety peaked in episode 21 of season 11. When Dempsey's character passed away. The cast and crew sighed with relief as they said farewell to McDreamy. And then the most dramatic part of all. Shonda Rhimes reportedly issued an ultimatum to the network. Dempsey's character was the ideal man she had based the program on, so she had always shielded him. However, after she witnessed his actions firsthand, everything changed. That's when Rhimes lost it, as producer Renshaw described it. "If he doesn't go, I go," she allegedly told ABC. It was an obvious option. Rhimes had created a worldwide sensation out of Grey's Anatomy. The network took her side since it would have been disastrous to lose her. Dempsey's destiny was also set, even though he had a contract through season 12. His dying scene was secretly filmed in a few weeks. The episode startled millions when it aired in April 2015. No one anticipated it. Behind the scenes, however, it had long been anticipated. Dempsey, for his part, didn't act surprised. He had worked on the show for 11 seasons, 15 hours a day, 10 months a year. In 2016, he told People magazine that it had just been long enough. A typical family life was impossible due to the schedule, he acknowledged. He occasionally found it difficult to respond when his children asked him what he was doing the following day. He was clueless. "I probably should have left the show earlier," he remarked. Pariat agreed, the executive producer. Dempsey was done, tired, and frustrated. He didn't want to continue to be there every day. Given that someone like Pompeo was getting a lot more screen time, his attitude annoyed his fellow actors. It was more than one item in the end. Everything was involved. The drama, grievances, and power conflicts. Additionally, the episode How to Save a Life, which aired on April 23, 2015, murdered off one of the most adored characters on television. Behind the scenes, nothing could be saved because it was too late. Sandra Oh did not simply leave Grey's Anatomy. She had to give up something of herself. She first entered therapy in 2011. Not because something went wrong, but because she was aware that she would eventually have to bid Christina Yang farewell. She allowed 2 whole years. Each session, each journal post, each private moment. It all came down to getting ready to leave a position that had influenced her life. Over 220 episodes in 10 seasons, Christina was more than simply a fictional character. Sandra had her. Sandra only stated, "I'm ready," when she sat down with Shonda Rhimes at the end of season 9. The reality is, though, that choice had been in the making for a while. The contracts of the initial 6 cast members came up for renewal in March 2012. Ellen Pompeo, Sandra Oh, Chandra Wilson, James Pickens Jr., Patrick Dempsey, and Justin Chambers. All of them were asked to sign a 2-year extension by ABC. And Sandra's perspective changed as the others engaged in negotiations. They had just shown that terrible plane disaster in season 8. There had been 175 episodes of the show. Sandra continued to make $350,000 per show. She is at the top of her game. However, rather than pursuing additional financial gain, she spent the night creating career maps on paper in an attempt to determine her future steps. Only her therapist and a select group of close friends were aware of it, neither the network nor the fans were. By December of the same year, she had decided. It would be her final season. She didn't leave quickly. The planning period was 14 months. Sandra and Shonda met weekly beginning in July 2013. No tragedy, no death, no collapse. This would not be another clumsy farewell like some of the others. Sandra even had a hand in writing the scenes. Since Christina is the director of a state-of-the-art heart institute in Zurich, they collaborated to create a send-off that reflected her goals. To give it a sense of authenticity, Sandra even researched actual cardiac surgeons. On May 15, 2014, the finale episode aired, as Christina and Meredith danced it out one last time. After that, she vanished. At that point, Sandra had completed 216 episodes. In addition to a broken marriage, her character had experienced too many emotional turns to count, 3 near-death experiences, and 24 surgeries. The Golden Globe had gone to her. 5 Emmys had been nominated for her. She knew she had nothing more to prove. She said, "I did my best." And she experienced an odd feeling when she glanced at Christina. She stated that she too wants to be let go. It wasn't only Sandra bidding farewell. It was also Christina. However, Christina wasn't the only person that departed during that period. Mark Sloan, Eric Dane, was engaged in another conflict. When his wife was expecting their second kid in 2011, he checked himself into a recovery facility. Back painkillers were the first step, but it didn't end there. Once in his youth he had been clean. The strain, the celebrity, and the idleness during the 2007 writers' strike, however, made things worse for Grey's. Later on, he said, "I was fucked up longer than I was sober." After cleaning up, he went back to work, but something had changed. and he was out of time by 2012. Dane wasn't sugarcoating anything in a 2024 Candid interview. "I was let go, so I didn't leave much," he stated. "They didn't recruit me as the same person. The choice was made quietly, without any major altercation or spectacular conclusion." He was not returning. He even acknowledged that the name McSteamy made him nervous. Unlike the TV heartthrob, he never felt that way. He was battling pressure, addiction, and identity issues behind the scenes. Following Grey's, the depression worsened. It all fell apart during the last ship's filming. And money didn't help. By the 8th season, the show had become costly. Dane hoped to earn $250,000 per episode, but he was only earning about $125,000. Other celebrities, such as Kevin McKidd and Chandra Wilson, were making less money at the same time. The network could do something. Reduce expenses or preserve a fan favorite. Ellen, Sandra, and Patrick were retained. In an instant, Dane was gone. He received $275,000 each episode on HBO's Euphoria, which is ironic because it was more than Grey's ever paid him. Lexi Grey and Kyler Lee quit for non-famous or money-related reasons. She was losing her mind and body. She had recently been diagnosed with bipolar disorder at the age of 29. However, since she was 12, the indications had been present. 3 children were born to her. One was suffering from seizures. Someone else had autism. She was going all manic at work. She was not asleep. She was not eating. She started acting as an escape. She continued using the adrenaline. But it was short-lived. She was supported by her husband. It was decided to go together. She had to improve for herself, as well as for her relatives. She was scarred by her leave. Grey's Anatomy's season 8 finale, Flight, featured a plane disaster in May 2012. Mark, Lexi, Arizona, Derek, Meredith, and Christina were on board. What was the initial plan? Shonda Rhimes realized it wasn't enough that Lexi was supposed to die in the hospital after a fall. She changed the narrative. The wreckage would kill Lexi. Mark took her hand. He assured her that marriage, children, and old age were all things they would never have. She said, "Made to be," and grinned. She then passed away. Mark narrowly avoided death in the collision. After being put on life support for 30 days, he also passed away. In their honor, Grace Sloan Memorial Hospital was renamed from Seattle Grace Mercy West. Years later, in 2020, they both reappeared in a dream. Just long enough for fans to bid farewell once more, they made an appearance on the beach while Meredith was in a coma. Nobody anticipated the disappearance of Alex Karev from Grey's Anatomy. He simply disappeared. No farewell, no warning. The 350th episode, which aired on November 14, 2019, featured his final scene. But no one was aware that it was his last moment. After that, odd justifications were made in episode after episode. Initially, they claimed he was going to see his ailing mother. After that, nothing. Stillness. It wasn't just any character, though. Alex had recently taken over a medical facility. He was supporting his wife, Jo, while she dealt with severe mental health issues. Despite Christina's departure, he remained Meredith's closest companion. Fans waited for 7 episodes. No answers, only questions. The situation was worse behind the scenes. Alex's actor, Justin Chambers, was going through a difficult time. It was revealed at the beginning of 2020 that he had been dealing with depression and stress. According to some, he was in and out of a mental health center. He was used to this. He had a sleep condition that was so bad that he was only getting an hour of sleep a week back in 2008. He claimed that even when he was physically tired, his thoughts continued to race. After he lay down, he would stand up and pace. This continued for 2 months. He partially attributed it to his intense role-playing. He once stated, "Be cautious what you find." Upon being questioned subsequently about whether he had visited PriveSwiss, a rehab facility well known for treating celebrities, he simply replied, "Maybe," and didn't elaborate. Following that, everything became official on January 10, 2020. Justin Chambers declared his departure from Grey's Anatomy. It was an unexpected statement. Not even a hint or build-up. He expressed a desire to explore new things. He had 5 children and a wife at the age of 50. It was the appropriate moment, he added. The timing, however, was startling. He was one of the first episode's 5 original cast members. He had remained for 16 seasons. And there wasn't a grandiose farewell, unlike prior significant exits. No final interview, no press, nothing. Ellen Pompeo posted a brief statement on Twitter. Not a single member of the cast spoke. It was time for Chambers to move on, according to actor Omar Leva, who described him as honest and modest. In a flash, another original was lost. From the start, Meredith Grey was the only one remaining. Finally, on March 5, 2020, the show revealed Alex's whereabouts. It was shocking. Voiceover letters informed us that Alex had located Izzy, his ex-wife. Frozen embryos from her cancer therapy had been used covertly. Alex's twins, who were now 5 years old, were hers. To be with her and the children, he relocated to Kansas and left everything behind. That meant quitting his job, leaving Meredith, and quitting Joe. Fans were incensed. They believed they had been deceived. Alex simply disappeared after growing for 16 seasons. The creators of the show stated that they had 3 options. Either kill Alex off-screen, make him appear to be alive, or bring him back to Izzy. Not everyone agreed, so they picked the one they believed to be the kindest. Nevertheless, the show attracted 6.3 million viewers, its highest rating in 6 weeks. Playing Callie Torres, Sarah Ramirez likewise abruptly left, although in a different way. They left in 2016, 10 years later, and even Shonda Rhimes was surprised. She said that she just learned a few days before the general public knew. They had reached an emotional wall, Ramirez later said. After putting their everything into the part, they wanted some breathing room. Her departure wasn't as unexpected as others because the writers had fortunately previously recorded sequences of Callie going to New York. Additionally, Arizona later relocated there as well, allowing their daughter to live with both parents. They haven't returned yet, but Ramirez never said he wouldn't. The departure of Jackson Avery's actor, Jesse Williams, was quite different. He helped compose his own farewell, although he left after 12 seasons in 2021. He had to be scared of his next move, he told the New York Times. Jackson's last plot point involved him moving to Boston to take over his family's foundation because he wanted to go out of his comfort zone. Fighting racial inequality in healthcare was his goal. Williams's activism in real life was reflected in the plot. There were poignant farewells in his final episode, particularly with Meredith. Filming those scenes was extremely cathartic, according to Williams. He went out and faced Broadway. He received a nomination for a Tony Award for his role in Take Me Out. Thus, the gamble did pay off. Afterward, Ellen Pompeo appeared. She chose to take a break after 18 seasons. In 2022, she played a smaller part in season 19. She compared it to sending a child to college. The average person keeps their children at home for 19 years. She cracked a joke. She wanted to pursue new endeavors and spend more time with her 3 children. In addition to continuing to provide voiceovers, she remained an executive producer. She acknowledged that money was another reason she didn't completely quit in 2025. If I go entirely, she says, everyone will continue to profit from my job while I will not. She reached a deal for $20 million back in 2017. As a result, she became the highest paid TV actress. Though she retained one hand on the wheel, her step back allowed more space for the newer figures. In 2020, when COVID struck, Grey's Anatomy came up with a clever solution. They infected Meredith with the virus. She continued to see dead characters on a beach while in her coma. It was heartfelt. Fans who have never had closure before found it. As Derek, Patrick Dempsey returned. George O'Malley also showed up. Mark and Lexi did, too. Their moments were shot on a green screen, but even DeLuca, who passed away in the middle of the season, raced into his late mother's arms for a final goodbye. These scenes served as a reminder to viewers of the show's longevity, the magnitude of the loss it had depicted, and its remaining heart.